Aloha, my friends and family across planet Earth. This is Trey Smith, and today I'm speaking about how limits can actually free you. Okay? It's a responsibility. You know, if you went out and kicked somebody's ass you didn't know, or raped somebody, took their wallet, or stole their car, those would be acting against moral law, against karmic law, and you would not only if you got caught by the cops, you'd get in spiritual trouble. You'd have ghosts hounding you. So it's a responsibility to be free, thus by obeying the limitation of self-respect, discernment, and being harmless, you will be more free. It's just a duh thing that we grew up in this Illuminati run media, so people need to be reminded. So that's what I'm here, like I say, for you. Those of you who need spiritual kindergarten, first, second, and third grade, here I am. So, there is no sexual freedom possible without relationship excellence, relationship discipline, and respect. For example, knowing more of your limits, you can become more free through faith in the Christ within by diligently, harmlessly following your lifetime's blueprint as best you can. You attain more freedom. Denial of your needs is spiritual or mental lockdown. Okay, I said it in part one, but it bears repeating. Anyway, so as an excuse, meeting them is freeing. Gnosis. Gnosis is your responsibility and an inside job, as I say many times. How about this? Helen Keller said, after learning, she was from a wealthy family, I'll have you know, but on the other hand, after being born blind and deaf and learning to speak and write, Helen Keller said, life is either a grand adventure or nothing at all. Okay? So, the welfare check, I've had times where I've had a broken bicycle, like the chain would go off a lot, for example, and every time I was thinking a demonic or Zeta Gray kind of exaggerated thought, the chain would go off. So I've noticed that, if I have an old, especially an elderly or rusty-ish bicycle, or a bicycle with something wrong with it, it's just mildly wrong with it, it was a great tool to learn to see how the dark side or the disrespectful thoughts were influencing the reality. So that's a funny example in my life of how a limitation actually allowed me to have more clarity on, again, how thoughts are things or influence are out of reality, and how thoughts are a grave limitation for most of us if we cannot learn to clear them or respect nearly all of our thoughts. And this is why I would say in the ascension process, most of us need immediate personal space, because this can this can be like Jordan Peterson said, an increase in technological power, it requires an increase in responsibility and wisdom. Okay, so we have these computers and these cell phones and all these gadgets, and we become less free. We become more limited as a whole, the human race, because most people are staring down on their cell phone instead of paying attention to what's in front of them, out of that dopamine addiction. And the belief that this gadget or this external object is going to free you is causing entrapment. Whereas understanding the limitations of technology, someone such as myself can use the technology to spread awareness. So it's a very necessary limit that you must have on your usage of technology. As I've said in previous episodes, if you don't want to develop cancer clusters, it's pretty common knowledge, or other illnesses. Whereas in the year 2020, we saw the opposite. We saw how the imposing of false limits was, although it was an attempt by a Nazi officer's son and a eugenicist and all of their friends and their reptilian overlords to create a human 2.0 cyborg slave race and keep us on a prison planet. They had the opposite result because of people like Ron DeSantis. They didn't realize there would be governors that would sue them out of their draconian, as he said, laws and reinstate our ability to breathe on the public transportation, for example, and how many people during the lockdown became more and more aware of the deceiver, what the rainmaker actually is, and I chucklingly say that with a double entendre today, folks, because this nanotech rain was certainly brought to us by the rainmakers. Yes, that's right. So Mark Passio says that there is a proportionate relationship in society between morality and freedom. When we have more morality, we have more freedom. Look at the states where people are more moral. You would have more ability to freely roam. Look at the zones or cities where there's less morality. You see a lot more. Often see more police presence, right? Because they feel or surveillance, because they feel the necessity of that, right? So the less morality, the less free. And I would say you could take it to the extreme that morality can make you free if you're truly moral. Okay? If you follow only the real rules of Christ, the true Christ, not the church. Intuiting people to the. Jordan Peterson said, "I'm inviting people to the moral adventure of their lives. In a totalitarian state, everyone lies and denies." Jesus said, "To become free, bring ye forth from that from what is within you." Or no, he said, if ye bring forth that what is within you, you will become free. If you withhold that what is within you, it will imprison you, or something to that effect. So think about criminals in jail and freedom, okay? Sometimes, unfortunately not often, because they're surrounded by others who are teaching them how to be better criminals, but sometimes criminals in jail, people doing hard time, repent and become more respectful to themselves and more self-disciplined. And think about Nelson Mandela was a freedom fighter, literally, activist, freedom's truth warrior who got jailed for 30 years. Then he got the discipline to become the president of South Africa after being jailed for 30 years. Imagine that. Nelson Mandela is probably the most shining example of someone who took their limitations and became free. Okay, he became extremely disciplined in his behavior. He never would ever act like a screaming, angry activist again or do anything to break the law, to get in trouble. No, he was going to help the world in a respectful way. Okay, so knowing all this, I have to ask you, when it comes to responsibility, can you be free without responsibility? Hell no. Without responsibility, you are completely entrapped, especially, of course, self-respect, discernment, psychic responsibility, emotional responsibility. Each time I act like a little kid and throw a tantrum, I'm trapped in that demonic little child's mind state until I give that up. So knowing good, limit. Knowing good then you know the limits of freedom, okay? When you know that you'd rather be good because you don't want to be punished by your own soul, by the boomerang effect of karma in the age of Aquarius. It's so rapid that some harm, every time you do harm to someone else, knowing it's rapidly coming back because you're wise, you realize it's pathetic. You realize the limit of being free is you are going to be mostly harmless and respectful to all beings if you can. Obey, and if you obey the fake limits, you may achieve survival, but your soul will be greatly, unduly restricted by the demiurge's soul recycling, Saturn moon matrix, death, reincarnation, cycle trap, where you're a fucking slave for many, many hundreds of years. If you're unlimited, are you really free? Okay, think about it. If you're God and you could do anything, but there's no limits, and you could never die, and you could never learn. Now, this really explains why the Almighty chose to get in these fleshy clay suits and allow the demiurge and the deceiver to play this game of separation, because it allows all of us to truly grow and expand. This experiment of fleshy clay bodies actually truly allows the original creator divine goddess Christ to become more free. Okay? But only, really when the beings are respectful, because if it's through killing or war, violence and torture that we learn, it takes much longer, and the person doing it, unless they repent, are they learning? Nope. So and are you really free without contrast, right? If you don't have something to contrast it with, okay, that is what I've just said is the true value of Lucifer and Satan and the antagonist, the black sons, the Belial sons, not to obey them, but to understand the value of shadow, so that we can see the power of light and learn and to become more and better. Okay, Satan, 666 is the number of carbon atoms in a human body. Satan, or the 666 carbon body, learning when you're in the carbon body, and now if you're ascending to transforming into the crystalline based body, learning your fake and real limits through transcendence. And then eventually, if you make YouTube videos or videos that are successful, for example, through bilocationality, you can learn freedom and through the technologies, through realizing, again, as I've said before, that chances are you're probably going to get old and wrinkled and less effective and less energetic, and probably going to leave this fleshy suit. So you might as well do your best to live your blueprint now, at least when you've got, when you can figure out how to do that. If you were limitless, how would you have value? How would you know? This is the value. This is why all the pain and suffering has value. But again, if you bang your head against the wall every day of your life and you never leave the prison planet, where's the value in that? It's just pure suffering. So, and you're just fuel for the dark is what they want. So although banksters represent an archetypal anti-value mostly in the obedient to them, okay? If 2020's plans had worked, if the devil and their minions had taken this planet 100%, and there would be no freedom or soul growth possible for anyone, okay? This is why it's pathetic in the end if everyone obeys them. Whereas rebelling, truth-telling, telling what the truth was about their plan and rebelling against it, with more admitting the truth, more rebelling, more truth-telling, more allowing of awareness of the limitations that we have as humanity, individually and collectively, then we have more freedom collectively and individually. And if you enjoyed this commentary, click on the subscribe button and make sure you click the notification bell for more, or you might have to type my name in to get more, because this channel is highly shadow banned by YouTube, unless you're watching on Odyssey, and so they might actually be honest about how many people watched it. Anyway, and make sure that you do your best to, use your limits for freedom in a harmless way if you can, and create a great day, my family. Love you.